Among the many different functions that the endoplasmic reticulum has, two main functions of endoplasmic reticulum is protein sorting and targeting. The endoplasmic reticulum is presented with a number of different kinds of proteins which are destined to move to different places. Now, how the sorting of this protein is done? The role of the endoplasmic reticulum in protein processing and sorting was first demonstrated by George Palladay in the 1960s. He chalked out what we call to be the secretory pathway. According to the secretory pathway, the proteins move from the rough endoplasmic reticulum to the Golgi, and by the secretory vesicle it moves to the cell exterior. After Palladay, the main step in the understanding of protein sorting by endoplasmic reticulum, we should mention the signal hypothesis. Gunter Blobel and David Sabatini in 1971 proposed three main points regarding the function of endoplasmic reticulum in protein sorting. The first point is that the mRNA which is to be translated on membrane-bound ribosomes contains a unique set of codons, just 3' of the initiation site. Next, the translation of this codon yields a unique sequence at the amino terminus of the growing polypeptide chain, which is called the signal sequence. Today we know that the signal sequence consists of mainly hydrophobic amino acids preceded by basic residues. Say for example, if we look at the signal sequence of the growth hormone, we will find that as a basic residue, their arginine is present. And it precedes a chain of hydrophobic amino acids. The third postulate of the hypothesis of Blobel and Sabatini was that the signal sequence triggers attachment of the ribosome to the membrane. The signal hypothesis is a somewhat detailed version of this hypothesis. And what was the essential feature of the signal hypothesis? That is the occurrence of a unique sequence of codons located immediately to the right of the initiation codon. Signal hypothesis states that this unique sequence of codons is present only in those mRNAs whose translation products are to be transferred across a membrane. This hypothesis had a great impact on many spheres of cell biology. You know why? Because firstly, it formally substantiated for the transfer of secreted proteins into the endoplasmic reticulum, and secondly because it provided the framework for understanding the targeting of proteins to all other membrane enclosed compartment of the cell. Now the question is how the proteins they remain within the endoplasmic reticulum. I'm talking about the endoplasmic reticulum resident proteins. They should also be retained within the endoplasmic reticulum. Here, we know today that there is a presence of a retention motif. This motif is composed of 4 amino acid at the end of the protein sequence. Most common motif is the KDEL, which is composed of lysine, asparagine, glutamine and leucine. Variation on KDEL does occur. There are 3 KDEL receptors in the mammalian cells and they have a very high degree of sequence identity. Functional difference between these receptors, however, remain to be established. Now we come across 2 different kinds of ribosomes, the membrane-bound ribosome and the free ribosomes. Proteins destined to remain in the cytosol or to be incorporated into the nucleus, mitochondria, chloroplast or peroxisomes are synthesized on free ribosomes. Proteins are released into the cytosol when their translation is completed. This is the picture of free ribosome. Here we can see that the polypeptide chain is synthesized, means translation is completed, it comes to the cytosol. But here the case is different. The membrane-bound ribosomes here, proteins synthesized on this membrane-bound ribosomes are translocated into the endoplasmic reticulum while their translation is in process. While translation is in process, it is moved. So they are transferred into the rough endoplasmic reticulum as their translation proceeds. Also, the question arises how proteins are transported across the endoplasmic reticulum membrane. Here we will talk about a complex called the Sec61 complex. The Sec61 complex binds ribosome to the endoplasmic reticulum. The growing polypeptide chain is transferred directly from the ribosome into the Sec61 membrane channel. Most signal sequences contain a stretch of hydrophobic amino acid preceded by the basic residues we know. Now, the Sec61 complex bind ribosome to the endoplasmic reticulum. Tom Rappaport and colleagues, they first found out that the protein secretion machinery is conserved in prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells. The Sec61 complex consists of three membrane-spanning proteins. This constitutes the major component of the endoplasmic reticulum protein conducting channel in both yeasts and mammalian cells. Now we are going to protein targeting. As a part of protein targeting, we will see that the ribosome, it plays a major role. If we look at this picture minutely, we will find that this book discusses the total incidence in 5 major steps: 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. But to have a detailed look at it, we will divide the process into 9 steps. I'll move the photograph one by one as I discuss. First, the signal sequence of about 20 amino acids, including a stretch of hydrophobic residues, emerge from the ribosome, this red portion. Now, the signal sequence are recognized by SRP. SRP is the signal recognition particle. It is composed of 6 polypeptides and a small cytoplasmic RNA. Further translation is inhibited, and so now we get a total complex. What is it made up of? The SRP, that is the signal recognition particle, plus the ribosome. You see the complex over here. The SRP, the ribosome, the growing polypeptide chain, and it is targeted to the endoplasmic reticulum membrane. Next, the SRP receptor on the endoplasmic reticulum membrane releases SRP from both the ribosome and the signal sequence of the nascent polypeptide chain. Next, ribosome binds to a protein translocation complex in the endoplasmic reticulum. The signal sequence is inserted into a membrane channel. The next step is translation is resumed. In the next step, the growing polypeptide chain is translocated across the membrane into the endoplasmic reticulum. The signal sequence is cleaved by signal peptidase and polypeptide is released into the lumen of the endoplasmic reticulum. In this way, the secretory proteins are targeted to the endoplasmic reticulum. But secretory proteins are not of the same kind. There are different kinds of secretory proteins. Some spans the membrane only once, others span it several times. I come to the picture. Here we can see that there are two main sequence which aids in the insertion of different kinds of proteins. That is the stop transfer sequence and the internal signal sequence. The sequence in blue is the stop transfer sequence, whereas the one in red here is the internal signal sequence. In the insertion of a membrane protein with a cleavable signal sequence at a single stop transfer sequence, the picture is in this form. Now, a polypeptide chain has two ends. One is the N-terminal end and the other is the carboxy terminal or the C-terminal end. Now the question arises, when the protein is being targeted to a particular membrane, then it should also be decided on which portion or which side the C portion is to remain and on which side the N portion should remain. We know that outside the endoplasmic reticulum is the cytosol. So we can divide this cellular compartment here into two main portions. The first one is the endoplasmic reticulum lumen and the other is the cytosol. So the C portion or the C terminal end of the polypeptide may remain in the cytosolic side and the N terminal may remain in the endoplasmic reticulum lumen side, or the opposite as here. The C terminal in the endoplasmic reticulum lumen side and the N terminal in the cytosolic side. So all this is possible due to the presence of these two signal sequence. And even for the proteins which span the membrane for more than one time, we can see that these two particles are playing a major role. And another one, the second signal sequence, internal signal sequence, is being active over here. Why? Because one internal signal sequence was required for the entry of a single chain, and now because it is spanning for more than once, another internal signal sequence is becoming active, and you see the total complex that we talked about at the beginning to insert into the channel the protein once again. And this process will continue. Once completed, it will repeat again and again. So in this way, protein targeting is achieved.